What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream Tuesday night. Here we go, recapping what went down over the Week 9 action, and then we start taking a look at some of the lines going into Week 10. Craig, 4-3 in the Golden Nugget. We got back on that high horse for our college games. Less than spectacular for our NFL games. We went 2-3 in the Super Contest. And, listen, it wasn't terrible, but we're getting back.
Yeah, we'll get back to where we were for sure. And look, some kind of unusual results, I would say, on Sunday, no doubt about that. And we have a very exciting week of college, really more college than pro football, honestly, this week with two major games in college. So after we kind of look back on our review and grade ourselves out, we'll go ahead and we'll give you a preview of Saturday night's game. We'll also talk about Thursday night's game, which to me is very intriguing. I'm very much looking forward to the Raiders and Chargers on Thursday.
Yeah, actually, that is a really good game because it's definitely two teams on upward trajectories. Chargers had a great game at home against Green Bay. Didn't see that coming the way it went down. Melvin Ingram, big, huge boost to their defense. But now going up against Oakland, coming off of a huge win against Detroit. We actually had that game. We had the Raiders minus 2.5, and that worked out. And now we're looking at two strong passing offenses, and we've got decent ground games as well.
Yep, high total in that one also. And then, of course, we'll preview Alabama and LSU here and again on Friday. And then we'll talk about the other big game that not a lot of people are talking about, Minnesota and Penn State as well.
All right, well, let's kind of just go through what went down for us this past week. And let's start it off with our review of. I'm going to the ticket right now. It's on the site, people. It's on wageralarm.com. It's on the site.
Well, we can start off by fading Rutgers, right? That was the first thing we did.
We were totally into that, and that worked out. Again, we went back to the well, so mazel tov to us for.
Yep. I mean, we've done it 4 times. We've won 3 out of 4 times, so I don't see any reason to stop doing that. Rutgers did not have the same success against Illinois that they did against Liberty. It wasn't even close. Liberty, by the way, went to UMass and blew them out. I was curious how they were going to do after letting us down. UMass may be the worst team. UMass may be worse than Rutgers, but beyond that, they've been a good team to fade all season long. So Rutgers did us some solid work by not covering, and that one was actually pretty close at the half, and then Illinois pulled away late.
Next game that we ended up hitting on, UCLA covered that 6.5 point spread. That felt pretty good. I enjoyed that one.
Pretty easy one going against a subpar opponent in Colorado.
Yeah.
UCLA, all of a sudden, after a slow start, has really started to pick it up. For what reason, I don't know. We still have an outside chance of hitting the over on their win total. They're going to have to win every game, but still have that as a possibility. But that was pretty much done from the beginning of the game. UCLA went up big. They never looked back.
Well, what's the rest of their schedule look like for that running the table? Because listen, when you beat somebody like Colorado, it's not saying much to me. I mean, it really isn't. So
no, it is not.
So yeah, are you tearing up that ticket? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't have. Let's see, UCLA football schedule. Let's take a look here and see what kind of chance we have. Okay, so they have a bye week this week. Oh, all they do is they play 8th ranked Utah after that. They got that one in the bag, no problem.
Oh yeah.
And then they go to USC after that. We got that one. No problem. And then they play Cal the last game of the season at home, which is a winnable game. Let's see. Overall, they are 4-5. I think 6.5 was the number actually. So yeah. They would basically need to win all 3 games. So yeah, we're gonna tear that one up. Yeah.
Speaking of tearing up, Georgia. Cover that spread on the Gators.
Okay,
sorry about your Gators.
That was a loss for us.
Yeah.
But what happened in that game was, I mean, you got to feel okay about that one because the Gators were up 5 with under 2 minutes to go. Georgia went for 2 on the 2-point conversion, and they got it, and then the game ended. So what are you going to do? I mean, that's not one. I mean, Florida played very tight with them all game long, especially in the second half. And, I don't feel particularly bad about that outcome there. I mean, that's going to happen in college. And the team doesn't get a 2-point conversion. We have an amazing week in college football. So I wouldn't say the Gators were the right side, but it was close enough to me that I don't feel particularly bad about that one.
Okay. And then finally we hit with Oklahoma State. We were giving 3.
Pretty easy.
Perfectly fine. That was pretty much in control the entire way.
Yeah. Chuba Hubbard. The
running back. Hubbard?
Yeah, 200 more yards in that game, including a 90-yard touchdown. He's I don't know if he's eligible to come out in the draft or not, but when he does, Howard, he's a first-round pick. He's going to be a fantasy star, by the way, in the NFL for sure. He's a leading rusher in all of college football, and it's just a matter of time each game before he gets you. And look, TCU put up a battle in this one, but they just committed to way too many turnovers. They have a freshman quarterback there, and Oklahoma State made their fair share of mistakes, but they were at home. And the game, it was close, but it was never really in doubt. So I feel really good about actually all of our college football picks last week.
Yeah, it was very nice. Went 3-1. Then all of a sudden, we took a little tumble. The Bears plus
Let's
5.
talk about the Bears, Howard.
Dude, Trubisky looks terrible. Matt Nagy, just horrible play calling. I mean, this was bad. This was ugly. I mean, listen, everybody's successful against the Eagles' pass defense. Everybody has just torched them nonstop. It's been a constant. It's been like death, taxes, torch the Eagles' pass defense. Didn't happen there. Trubisky, he's dead to me. That's fine. Moving along.
Yeah,
we took the Raiders -2 in this one here.
Yeah, the Raiders was good. Yeah, the Raiders was a good pick. I think they're on a roll. I would not discount them maybe making a playoff push. At this point, the Colts are a little bit iffy with their quarterback situation, not having Hilton. Oakland is still on the outside looking in, but I'm really impressed with the way that they have played. Look, their defense isn't great, and Stafford did have the ball near the goal line, and for some reason threw to like the 8th option in the back of the end zone in that game at the end. But look, the Raiders still could have in overtime won by 3 and still covered. So I was impressed with Oakland against Houston. And I've been impressed with Oakland the last few games. Now they get a lot of home games. I probably will be riding Oakland for a while here. I'm starting to get a feel that they could be our friend the rest of the way. So that clearly was a good one.
Love it. Would absolutely love it. 1-point underdog so far to the Chargers right now. Home dog.
I think I like Raiders. I think I like the Raiders.
All right. I can't argue against that. I can argue against picking the Giants with +7. I know.
That pick looked great for a long time.
For 3 quarters. For 3 quarters, it looked fantastic.
I thought it was a great pick, and then they just fell apart, man. I don't know what to say. They just really, really fell apart. I remember talking to you about that game, and Monday night trends are phenomenal with taking the home underdog. And I know that we split our picks up in the Super Contest, so we could talk about that in a minute. But I still would take the Monday night home dog, like 9 times out of 10. I think toward the end of the half was really when the game was decided. The Cowboys ended up scoring late, and that kind of put them over the top of the 13-12 lead. Giants hung in there for a while. It wasn't a great pick, that's for sure. We were not on the right side in that game.
So there we go. Went 4-3 though in the Nugget. Getting back on the right side of 500. That's always good. Helps us for our boosting back up that overall record. Now in the Super Contest. We had the Bears +4.5. That didn't work. We had the Raiders -2.5. That worked.
Mm-hmm.
So 1-1 there. The other 3 games we went with the Bills -9.5. We hit on that. That was great.
Very, very close. Very close. Bills needed a late touchdown to cover there. But again, if the Bears score a late touchdown, they cover against Philly. So look, I'll say this about the NFL. I was having a conversation with somebody about this today. Let's eliminate college football from the conversation here because this does not apply. In the NFL, on a week-to-week basis, you basically have close to 15 games. Let's make the assumption on a given week you have 15 games. Of the 15 games, I'm going to guess that 12 or 13 of them are going to come down to the end in the fourth quarter. I'm not talking about winning the game. I'm talking about covering or not covering the spread. They are all virtually coming down to those. So just think about that in terms of wagering, how easy that can be. A coin flip, it can be a interception, it could be a fumble, it can be a 2-point conversion. And this is what you're dealing with in the NFL. So virtually every pick that we'll have every week almost comes down to that. Are there games that don't? Certainly those are the ones that you want to be on the right side of, and you don't want to be on the other side of it. But that's just, don't feel great about winning and don't feel bad about losing because, again, it's coming down to the end every game. That's why the lines are so tight, and you have to take advantage of those.
One of those games there, Vikings-Chiefs.
Oh, thought we had that one in the bag once they announced that Mahomes was out. The line completely flipped the other way. You're feeling like, wow, what an advantage getting that line. It's great. It was one of the most picked games in the Super Contest as well last week. I think it was the second most picked. And look, the Chiefs, they finally unleashed Damian Williams, and And maybe that's a lesson to be learned going forward, especially for Kansas City.
You can't say they finally unleashed Damian Williams. The dude had a 91-yard touchdown run. He was untouched. He went right through a hole in the line that you could drive a boat through. The rest of his game was okay. They're still in the process of, whether they're going to put McCoy on the bench or whatever. So I can't get behind that. What I can get behind is that Mike Zimmer and Kevin Stefanski had their heads so far up their asses in the beginning of this game. You've got one of the top running games in the NFL. Top. You got one of the best backs in Dalvin Cook. Dude's chewing up yardage. So what do you do when you come out? You throw 3 incomplete passes, you punt. What do you do when you come back? You run it once with Dalvin Cook, and then what do? You throw an incomplete pass, and then you give the ball to freaking Amir Abdullah? That was zero sense.
Yeah, zero sense. We have had, and now because you're with me, we have had a hard time with Minnesota this season. I think we've only hit with them once, as opposed to picking either on or against them a few times. They're kind of a tough team to read, but looking back on it, going into that game, 12:30 on Sunday, and looking at a ticket where, we had points. We had 2.5. They ended up laying 3.5 by game time. You're going to take that every day of the week. That's where you want to be. So you can't look back on that and be disappointed. And again, Butker kicked a 54-yard field goal to win. What are you going to do? That's what happens. So don't feel bad about that one in particular. The Bears pick was one that I feel bad about. Yeah, that was one watching that game where at halftime I felt like, okay, that was Milk was a bad choice on that one. Yeah, I don't know how you can side with the Bears at all going forward. I know that they played good in the second half, but moving forward, I think their season is over. I think kind of like the Browns. I think their season is it's gonna be hard to side with them.
It's going to be very hard to side with them. Very difficult. Very difficult. So there you go. 2-3 in the Super Contest, 4-3 in the Nugget. Time to look ahead.
Okay.
And, I mean, listen, it's been on your mind for a long time. You've been watching this calendar. Alabama, LSU. Are you surprised that Alabama's a 6.5-point favorite in this one?
No, not really. Look, they're not going to give, and look, this is a lot less than it has been in past matchups with LSU. But they are simply not going to give LSU that respect with the game being played in Tuscaloosa. They're not going to do it. And I think we're back in that situation again. The other thing that is scary, if you want to side with LSU, and I know a lot of people are taking the points, and they're taking LSU, and it's almost kind of like people want LSU to win as opposed to knowing that LSU can win. And you got to be careful of that. The thing is, in this game, I believe it because I know that LSU's offense is good. But I've seen so many of these games, and the total is usually 41, 42, 46, 48, 50, 65 is the total in this game. And that tells you that getting 6.5 points is not that safe with LSU. I mean, there's going to be a lot of points being scored in this one, hypothetically, at least how Vegas sees this.
Sure.
And if that is indeed the case, then you're looking at an Alabama. I mean, is Alabama really putting 50 on LSU's defense? If that's the case, then I don't like LSU's chances. But I'll for sure, by the time we get to Friday, we'll have a pick on this, no doubt. We'll make a pick. The other thing that's going to happen, which is interesting from a wagering perspective, most analysts feel that the winner of this game, the Heisman Trophy, is going to go to the quarterback. So it'll go to either Tua Tagovailoa or Joe Burrow. There's a really good chance that the first 3 picks in the NFL draft, 2 of them will be the guys that are playing in Saturday's game. Either the first pick, second pick, or third. Because remember, we don't know who's picking where in this draft yet, and Miami just got knocked down like 5 spots. So hypothetically, let's say the Jets were picking first. They would probably take Ohio State defensive end Chase Young. He's going to be either the first, second, or third pick in the draft. Sure. Chase Young is like, I don't know how to describe him, like Von Miller, Strahan, like in that Hall of Fame type mold. He's been the most dominant defensive player in college football. If a team has a quarterback that's drafting 1, 2, or 3, Chase Young is going to be there, and then Tua will be second and Burrow will be third. Maybe Burrow second, even Tua third. Either way, for those people with odds on the Heisman, this is it. I think this game Saturday will determine it. 12:30 time by you, 3:30 time by me.
Very much looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be a nice one. Now, how about this one here? Battle of 8-0 teams. 8-0 teams that we're not talking about for the national championship.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. Why
aren't we?
Why aren't we?
Well,
you got
because
8-0 Minnesota. You got 8-0 Penn State. Why aren't they being talked about?
Well, Minnesota is, they went into the season not being really highly thought of. And look, they've really, I think, been one of the nice surprises of the year, Minnesota and Baylor. Minnesota's now won 10 straight games going back to last year. And PJ Fleck, their head coach, is probably Howard going to end up leaving, I would guess, and either go to the NFL or go to one of the top programs if something shakes out one way or the other. Florida State fired their coach this week, so that's a big discussion around college football. Who's going to end up being the head coach at FSU, although it's a little bit messy there. So it's a little bit unexpected. Minnesota's been doing it with their defense, not as much with their offense. It's kind of like a grinded-out type game. And the other thing, Howard, is they haven't beaten a ranked opponent yet this year. So there really isn't a ton of respect for them. And even with being 8-0, you would think that would put them in the top 10. Not so much. So realistically, if Minnesota was to beat Penn State and then win the Big Ten championship, I still am not sure that would put them into the college football playoff, as crazy as it sounds. They are getting almost 7 points in this game. It's the biggest game in the history of the school football. There's no question. This is going to be the most insane crowd the Golden Gophers have ever seen. And that's exciting for television. It's exciting for us to pay attention to. The reality is that Penn State is better. We don't really know what's going to happen in this one. Penn State's got some impressive wins, including Michigan State, several ranked opponents. Their defense is top 5 in the country. They're giving up less than 10 points a game. And Penn State's got some pedigree over the last few years of being in this spot. They also have a chance to get into that college football playoff because they do have a head-to-head against Ohio State coming up, and then they'll get to play in the Big Ten championship. If they win both those games, Howard, Penn State is going to be the 3 or the 4 seed. But that's a tall order, winning this game on the road and then having to beat Ohio State and then having to win the Big Ten championship. So not many people really feel like Penn State's a legit contender because they think that they're going to lose one of those games.
Right.
They're probably right. Ohio State will probably end up beating Penn State and getting into that Final Four. It certainly will be possible. But I do think it plays for a very exciting game this week. In general, these two teams have been going under a lot this season. That's something to keep an eye on. Penn State hasn't allowed more than 21 points in a conference game this year, and they face some pretty tough opponents this season. So I want to see Minnesota win this game. It's just so hard to handicap when a team hasn't played basically anybody on their schedule. So we'll kind of see what happens. Maybe we'll have an opinion on this as we get close to Friday night.
All right. Well, we'll definitely think it over. I know I want Minnesota. We'll argue about it later. All right. Let's talk Thursday night action here.
All right.
Chargers going up against the Raiders. We already said Raiders are getting a point. They're a home dog here. Kind of a pick-em situation. Melvin Gordon's definitely running better. We've yet to see Phillip Rivers really connect. Keenan Allen's been struggling a ton. Oakland secondary, pretty crappy.
Yeah,
pretty
bad.
crappy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely bad.
So now we've got, you got a revenge game narrative for Tyrell Williams from Oakland going up against his former team. You got Derek Carr, who's been playing some really efficient football. And let's face it, Josh Jacobs. I mean, everybody was talking about Gardner Minshew for the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I had
Josh
to look that
Jacobs is more deserving.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, now it's not even a question. Minshew's going to be out of there. It's basically between Jacobs, I think, and Murray at this point. McLaurin was in the conversation for a while there too. He was having a great season, but I don't think that's certainly the case anymore. Look, this is a weird line for me. When this line came out, and I kind of want to ride the Raiders a little bit. I wanted to see the Raiders 1.5 or 2-point favorites, and they're getting points Thursday. It's just a bizarre line. Like how? What? And I know I was shocked to see. I was talking about this on my radio show. I thought Rivers felt like he was having a terrible year. He's leading the NFL in passing yards. Like I never would have guessed that in this season, but he is. Keenan Allen historically has been one to tear up the Raiders, so that's a concern as well. The total is 48, but I gotta tell you, I like what I've seen from Oakland, and historically the Chargers as a favorite have not fared well. My guess is by the time this game kicks off, there will be some more money on Oakland. But it does smell a little fishy to me, Howard. This kind of reminds me of Jacksonville, Houston in London, where it just everything felt right for Jacksonville, and Houston was favorite. Kickoff, Jacksonville was favored in this game. I was like, okay, yeah, that's the way it should be. And man, Houston went in there and did a number on them. I don't think the Chargers are going to do a number on the Raiders, but they certainly could win the game. And look, I would expect a very close game. The last two times these teams play last year, 3-point game, 1-point game. Oakland won one, Chargers won the other one. I would expect the same thing, like a last-second type field goal. But I like what I've seen from Oakland, so I would side with Oakland on this one.
So, I mean, obvious overreaction to the Chargers pounding on the Packers, I think.
I guess.
That's, to me, it's what it's got to be.
I can't sort it out. And look, the one thing that is a fair narrative is that the Chargers are going to find a way to screw it up. Like this is what they do. And this has been going on for years and years. And I suppose the one thing that you look at and you say, well, what was the big change from in offensive coordinators when they fired Wisenhunt last week? Was there anything that was significant? And there really was. I mean, they gave Melvin Gordon the ball a lot more than they had been giving him. But I got to tell you, I think Eckler's good too. So I don't know that was a huge factor in this. And look, the Raiders defense, it's not very good. Again, last possession of the game, Detroit easily could have scored a touchdown, and we'd be having a different conversation. And maybe that's why the faith still isn't in there on the Raiders. But I got to take the Thursday night home team with no points. I mean, I just have to do it. I would feel a little better about it with the Raiders being a favorite. With the Chargers being a favorite, it has me scratching my head a little bit because I don't get it. I don't know why anybody would think the Chargers are a better team than Oakland. And I suppose in this spot, they're telling you that they're not a better team. That the Raiders. I mean, there's no spread. They're telling you that the Chargers are. So.
All right. Well, let's take a look at a couple of games. I got some questions about some of the games coming up for the NFL. I'm curious as to your thoughts. Number one. Atlanta. I've got them right now. I'm looking at them as a 13-point dog going into New Orleans. If the Falcons were to announce that Matt Ryan is definitely playing this week, what happens to this line?
Well, what is he right now? What was he going into the week? Did they give him any injury?
He was dealing with an ankle injury. He missed the game because of an ankle issue. He left the game before about halfway through. But they were getting pounded on, and it didn't look like a serious injury. They held him out the other game. They went into the bye week. They didn't fire any of their coaches like they were supposed to. Now they're coming back. So, I mean, he's had the time to heal.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when you've got Schaub, who threw for over 400 yards, the week before in week 8, the question now that I have is how much does this line move if it goes to Matt Ryan, or are we thinking that maybe Ryan and Schaub, there's not too much difference?
Yeah, I couldn't take Atlanta here. In general, when the points are this big, I would take an underdog. I couldn't take Atlanta, and I'll explain why. And again, you don't ever want to correlate a win and a loss, but you can correlate offenses and defenses. And I think what we've seen the last 2 weeks, and I think that this is going to play itself out when we get to the playoffs, is Seattle has a major problem defensively, like a major, major problem. I don't think that their defense, not only is it not close to what it is, they could be among the worst in the NFL. They let Matt Schaub throw for 380 yards on them in the second half last week, and then they let Winston go nuts on them this week. So I look at the Falcons. I think there's a chance they get blown out at New Orleans this week because I'm going to use that second half that they had against Seattle and just not count it at all. So I think the line is indeed right, and I think if you're going to bet this one, you probably wait because I think it goes down a little bit more. People will side with these kind of points, and they'll take the underdog. So if you're going to take New Orleans, I think that this goes down probably like 12, 11, 11 and a half, something like that. But I couldn't take Atlanta in this spot. They've just played so poorly all season long with the exception of one half 2 weeks ago against Seattle, and I don't know what's going on with them, Howard. They cannot stop anybody.
Okay. Buffalo, Cleveland. Buffalo is the underdog by 2.5.
That caught a lot of people by surprise this week, that line, when it came out. It shot down immediately. It was like 3.5. It shot down all the way to 2.5. I mean, what are the Browns living off at this point? I know that everyone is going to. I know everyone's going to run to take Buffalo, but again, this is the NFL. Strange things can happen. Look, the Browns were the number one pick last week by far in the Super Contest. Cleveland -3 or 4 at Denver, and Denver handed it to them. So I think personally this is one of those teams that's impossible to figure out why they are as bad as they are, because I still go back to that game that they played against Baltimore and crushed them. How did that happen? Like where is that team? I don't get it. I thought they'd come alive here in the second half and show something, but another team kind of like Chicago that I just don't have a good feel for at this point.
The other one I was looking at, Chicago now being a 2.5-point favorite over Detroit. Is this strictly because of Stafford's road numbers, him outside the dome? I mean, he had a good game when they came over to Oakland. He threw for over 300 yards, over 400 yards actually, with a couple of touchdowns there. So I'm curious as to why we're looking at Chicago, whose offense is insanely inept.
Yeah, no, it's and the game is in Chicago, and so that's a big part of what it is. Last year, the Bears dominated the Lions 23-16, 34-22 in both of their matchups. And I know Trubisky was playing better. The only thing that you could hope for if you take the Bears is, look, the Lions defense obviously is not good either. So there's certainly more of a chance. And I think probably the Bears learned their lesson. If the Bears ever learned their lesson, it would have come last week, because in the second half, they finally realized that the only success Trubisky is going to have is when they hike the ball to him and he rolls out. When he rolls out and he's like his hair's on fire, he just seems to be able to complete passes. But when he's in the pocket, for whatever reason, he can't. If they figure that out and they show something, there's certainly a chance they could beat Detroit, because I got to tell you, Howard, I think Detroit's going to go in a huge tailspin at this point. They had a game stolen from them about a month ago. They have not looked the same. And typical Lions fashion is they kind of get off to a decent start and then disappoint. I don't like Detroit either.
All right. Any other lines that you're looking at here where you're saying, you know what, maybe you want to take care of that bet right now before it moves? Anything you're looking at?
Over in the Cardinals-Buccaneers game. I don't see defenses in either of those two games. And remember, Winston turns the ball over enough. Winston's coming off a great game, so you know what's coming next. He don't have two back-to-back good games. I mean, he's going to throw picks and fumbles. I mean, that's coming. And look, Arizona showed really good running game with Drake. So there's no Tampa's defensive backs are horrific. And the Cardinals can't stop anybody over the middle. So I think a lot of points probably coming in this game. I wouldn't be shocked to see this thing go higher, 53, 54 points. Also, I think there's a good opportunity, and I do not like laying road points, as you know, but there could be an opportunity here for, I think, the Rams to get right against the Steelers. The Steelers really with pulling that win out of their you-know-what last week, having everything go right for them. Brissett comes out of the game. Hoyer comes in. I know he played okay, but throws that pick six to Minka Fitzpatrick. Vinatieri kicks the field goal. What is this line? The line is Rams -6, Rams -7. Instead, it's only 4. I have not had a lot of faith in the Rams because of how they've looked the last few weeks, but I don't have an issue with them when they're playing against a team that's not as good as them. I'm going to have an issue as we get deeper into the season and they play tougher teams like Seattle again, and when they play the San Francisco 49ers, I'll stay away from them there. But I think Tomlin's done a great job. I think Pittsburgh has gotten plenty more out of that team than you could possibly ask for. And then the other line, too, and again, looks like a stinker here, so it must be Tennessee, right? Now, we're not going to take Tennessee because they burned us too many times. But how are the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes only -3.5 at Tennessee, Howard? How is that even possible?
I have no idea.
I mean, doesn't that look like 51-0? Like it should, right? But the Chiefs can't stop anybody. And Tannehill does look much better than Mariota there. So if Kansas City was to go up big in this one, I don't see any scenario where Tennessee comes back. They looked awful against Carolina, but guess what? Against Carolina, as bad as they looked, Howard, they were driving down the field the end of the game to cover the spread. In the last minute of the game, they kicked a field goal, or they tried to kick a field goal to make it a one-score game with a minute left, and Suckup missed 3 field goals. Think about it. If Suckup makes 2 of the 3 field goals, they cover. So Tennessee's definitely better offensively than they were, but that was another one of those lines that I said, oh, the pick must be Tennessee. It's got to be. How can Kansas City only be -3.5? But man, the last 2 years, we've taken Tennessee twice. They've lost like 150-0 in the 2 games we've taken them.
I don't know if I can deal with that again. I don't know if I can deal with that.
So we're up against it, I think, this week. But the one thing that I would say is that I know that you were supremely confident with a couple of these games last week, as I have been in games this week, but you have to forget about that in gambling. You have to forget. You got to go. If we take the Bears, we're going to take the Bears. If you take the Vikings, you're going to take the. It is a 1-week league for us when it comes to wagering and when it comes to gambling, and you cannot completely get off a team, maybe except for the Browns. But in general, maybe the Browns we can get off completely. Browns. But in general, it doesn't matter. Like the Jets. Like, who's to say the Jets don't beat the Giants this week? The Jets lost to the Dolphins. Oh, it's over. It's over. Jets probably go out and beat the Giants this week. So
no, that's not happening. I'm telling. Listen, man. I'm speaking like a Jets fan on behalf of all Jets fans. There's no way I'm taking the Jets against the Giants in this one here. It's not a home game. All right, it's not a home dog. It's the same stadium. There's no way. Jets have quit. The Jets have quit. And I was off of it. I had to talk so many people off of their survivor pick of the Jets against Miami last week. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they just tried trading everybody away and they were unsuccessful at it. So you're telling me that these guys aren't going down to Miami right now and partying their asses off instead of worrying about what's going on in the game tomorrow? Please.
Yeah, that was
Giants easily win this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll see. But yeah, so we don't have a big selection of games. This is the big bye week in the NFL this week. Several teams are off. So my guess is even in college, maybe we'll go an extra game because it seems like we're back looking good with college again. Maybe we'll go back to 5-2 and then super contest 5 games. So we'll do that. So we'll be back Friday night. We'll have our pick in the Alabama LSU game. We'll do a pick in the Penn State Minnesota game. And then we'll have our Golden Nugget picks. We'll have our Super Contest picks, and we will win this weekend. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, baby. That's the Craig Mish I want to talk to.
How about college basketball? Let's start doing it. Tonight's college basketball started. We're going to do that too. No, we're not.
You know what? We've got it all here at Wager Alarm. There's best bets for college basketball.
I saw Servadidio had some picks out there, right?
Dan Servadidio making it happen there. Him and Austin Varney are going to be working a bunch of college basketball stuff over at us. And then stay tuned also because NBA wagering, you got Adam Ronis coming in.
Adam Ronis. Congratulations to Adam Ronis.
Right? So
what great news to have Adam. And Adam's very good at that, by the way, too.
Yes, he is, which is why he's joining the team. So there you go. Lots happening over here. Fantasy Alarm and Wager Alarm. So stick around. Craig and I will be back on Friday, and we'll make our picks then. Big thanks to our producer, Matt Sells. Big shout out to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. Gotta make those prop picks, baby. You like props? Monkey Knife Fight. FantasyAlarm.com/monkey. That's going to do it for us here tonight. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender, and we'll catch you next time.